Here we go. Hey folks, Lester here. Lester.
Oh my gosh, hold on.
Can I start now?
Mm-hmm.
Hey folks, Lester and Jamie here, and today we're going to show you a really neat property that we are, I would say, highly considering making a purchase on. What? Go ahead and say it. A lot of people are going to be upset that property, I don't want to say property one because we've looked at a few, but the one property that we really were looking to move forward on.
The one we thought that was like the property.
It was the turnkey property, as you call it. It was a turnkey property where everything was ready to go, but it didn't work out. And for, I haven't talked about that at all yet. I don't want to delve into all of that right now, but you know, we have a very strict criteria that we want to follow to find the right place for Tex and his forever home.
We're being picky.
Let's
be honest here. We're being very picky.
We have to be. I think that we owe that to Tex and his future herd to be picky. You know, for the safety and the well-being of him and his family, we have to be picky, and we owe that to him. So we're going to look at a property today. It's 18 acres. It's more than the 10 acres from before. And there are 2 ponds. I don't want to give away everything, so you guys join us and we'll talk more about it when we get there.
We're excited.
Yes, we are. Here we go. All right, my friends, I'm excited about this. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm standing outside of the property. We have not planned a formal visit, but I did let her know I would be driving by to look today, and she said that's totally fine. She's not home, but so I don't want to go on the property, but I do want to show you kind of what I'm looking at. Jamie and I have driven by here a couple of times. We've Googled Earthed and seen some satellite pictures and stuff, so I really like it. And so I want to show you what I'm looking at, and I'd love to hear your suggestions. Okay, so there has to be some fence work done. Unlike the other property, this is not going to come turnkey, as we say. But there's some really neat things here. Let me just show you. So there's a total of 18 acres that we would be buying. Not the house. She wants to keep her house in 5 acres, so we'd be buying 18 acres of property. So this is her yard here, and I'm just going to kind of zoom in and show you what I would have to do first. From this post, and it would go straight across. That tree looks to kind of be in my way, but we would be going straight across, and there would have to be a back fence built here. So the fence I would have to build would go straight across here, and everything back behind it. This is your first 12 acres. Now there's 2 different pastures here, totaling 12 acres. This part over here, she actually has it kept up. She actually has her little lawn service come by and mow this for her. That's why you see the grass looks so clean and groomed and everything's been edged around her trees. What I like about this over here, though, is the amount of shade trees. So this spot over here has these beautiful shade trees, and these are live oaks, so they'll keep leaves year-round. There's her water well. And that water well is independent from her house. Her home has city water. The well, though, sends water out to the barn and to the pond. Yes, I'll get to there a little bit later. Let's talk about what I'm going to call the barn. Now, guys, this is not a barn at all. This is actually a place where she and her husband used to park their RVs and his boat. And so what happened is he passed away, so now it's just her, and she no longer has the RV or the boat. So that right there is just an empty building. But there is running water, there is a septic, and so it has its own little bathroom, and so that's what they would use whenever they would have company come who were staying. They would be able to use that little spot there, and so that's going to be a neat little setup. I can't wait to walk and look inside that thing. That would not be a barn for me necessarily, as it would be more of a feed room, a dry storage, and stuff like that. So now you're going to say, wait a minute, Lester, where's your barn going to be? Where do those cows go for cover? So that would be something I would have to build. So that would be one thing that we don't have here that we did have on the other property, is I would have to do a little bit of work. I said it's not a turnkey, so it's not just come in and you know, right away. But your cows could come on over, and I would have to build a fence, and I would have to invest in building some kind of a barn. Some kind of a way to keep the cows out of the elements. Let's talk about the well real fast. The well goes to the barn area, and it also goes to the pond. They're able to use their well to keep their pond full, which is pretty neat. They also have an aeration system over here that keeps their pond clean and helps keep the fish alive, especially in the hot summer months. There is kind of a small ditch that runs right down through it. I'm not real sure about that, but I guess I'd rather have that to have all the water run off than have standing water. So I will say it has rained quite a bit this week. There's not a lot of water in the pasture. There is some standing water in their little ditch, but it flows here and goes right under the road into somewhere else. Hey, Jamie.
Hey.
So let's walk back. What do you want to say about this spot so far, babe?
It's very clean and beautiful.
It is
Something
clean and
I
beautiful.
love.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about that, and you'll see why in a few minutes. I'm going to show you two other pastures that are also adjoined here, and they're not going to be near as clean. So this over here is it only looks this way because it's been manicured by her lawn service.
But I'll say this, it's because they haven't had animals that graze on these things and
Yeah, it's
several
been
years.
a while since they've had animals grazing. So what we're going to do is walk back to the second pasture. And I do want you to know the second pasture is adjoined. There's a gate. I'll try to zoom into it. It's going to be a little bit hard from here. But there's a gate right where my finger's pointing. And you see that tree line? That right there separates this first pasture from the second one. This here's a small little road that we're out here on the end of a dead end to it. It circles around. There are other homes up here, but everyone that comes out goes that way. So no one comes down this way, which is kind of neat.
You know, this reminds me of our driveway at home. I mean, in a bigger scale, clearly, but
Well, our driveway at home doesn't have near as much of this stuff. I would keep this, though. I would keep all this. I would not take all this down because, like I said, you don't need people coming by looking at and having access to seeing your cows. They've actually, they were kind of lazy, Jamie. Look what they've done. I can't talk. I've done the exact same thing. So what they've done, this is the old original fence. You can see how old these posts are and how it's all, the barbed wire is quite corroded. But looky here. Somebody came by not too long ago, that's just a few years old, and built a second fence on the other side. And that has 5 strands of barbed wire. And that's good solid fencing. That's good cattle fencing. So this is the other pasture. This is the back side of the first one that I showed you. It's hard to see much from here. Let me find a little bit better angle. All right, I'm gonna walk over here and climb up on this stump. You guys bear with me, Jamie, I can do this. Okay, so this over here is the back side of the first pasture. This looks to be about 3 or 4 acres. Do you know exactly how much, Jamie?
I think this back side is exactly 4 acres.
This is exactly 4 acres. We did a lot of Google images and Google Earth mapping yesterday. And so this over here is 4 acres. It does have the fence line that runs all the way around it. It also has a gate that goes from the middle pasture to this one over here in the back. There is a small pond, but as you can see, this pond has not been as well kept. The pasture itself needs to be mowed off and cleaned up quite a bit. There's a lot of small trees and some shrubs that are growing that need to be mowed down, which you could do with your tractor very easily. Like Jamie said, they've had no animals grazing here for a while. You can actually see in the distance, that's a little feed trough. It's a covered food trough that they've had when they used to have their Longhorns. Jamie, I will say one little bit of bad news.
What?
Is that the neighbors back over here have cows.
Oh boy.
And as a matter of fact, Jamie, I'm seeing one of them right now as I make this video. It's hard to see for you all, but if you look right through there, I see there's a cow. Now, I don't know if that's I don't know how you can prevent that, Jamie, from buying land where there's no other animals around you, especially if you're looking for pasture land.
Well, the only good part about that is I think the woods right there are pretty thick.
So Jamie's made a really good point. Look how thick the tree line is right over there. And so a lot of people in the old days, and even in some parts of the country and the world now, will still use the natural tree line as an extra barrier, if you will, to prevent their cows or other animals from getting in or out. And so that actually would come into our advantage. They do have a fence all the way around it. I can see from here, yeah. I can see from here, there's a real solid fence, the same fence they have over here, built around the other side of it over there. And so that goes all the way around. And so that would be a concern. That would be a concern that I have to keep an eye on, but something we could address later on. All right, so now we've shown you 2 of the pastures. We've shown you 2 of the ponds. We've shown you some of the fencing. And like I said, Jamie, it's hard to look at a property without comparing it to the one before.
It is.
And so we've,
You know what's terrible?
what, Jamie?
So much of what we're saying is so relatable to the people in the dating world. It's so hard. It's so hard not to compare. I'm sorry.
Why you got the giggles for?
Because it's terrible.
It is. Whenever you look at anything you're about to invest in, right?
I know, dude. That's it.
Be it a house, or be it a vehicle, or be it
yourself.
property.
Or yourself. Seriously, if you're investing yourself in something, so that everybody knows that you work hard to earn your money. So that's about it. That's in your time, and whether it's something you're purchasing or about to invest yourself as a person into, another person, another family, another adventure, whatever it is, you have to compare and contrast. And you and I function on the T-chart of pros and cons. That's how we weigh out decisions in life.
You're right. That pond there is very clean. That's a really clean
Oh,
pond.
it's beautiful. It makes me ashamed of how dirty our pond is.
Yeah, and you know what? They have no colors and no dyes, but that's been there for a while, Jamie. Yes, you have to
I would agree with that.
remember.
That is enough.
All right, so this is a little country road that runs down through there, and we're going to drive around now and look at the 3rd section of pasture, which I believe is an additional 6 acres. And then we're going to show you from here. There's the fence, the gate, I'm sorry. There's the gate that goes into the other 6 acres. All right, so now I'm walking along the 3rd piece of pasture. I'm trying to find a way I can see in there. All right, so I can tell you right now that this fence here has to be tightened up. I do see the posts are new. It's 5 strands of barbed wire, but it has been pushed around a little bit. And so that would have to be something that would be addressed pretty soon. This pasture also needs to be mowed out. You can still see the little shed there, the little building in the far back side. There's the gate that would give the animals access from one pasture to the next. But this pasture needs to be cleaned up pretty good. And it's 6 acres. Now what I like about this is, like I said, there's 3 adjacent pastures. They all connect to each other with gates. What that tells me, if you ever had to separate an animal for some reason or move an animal around, and there goes a car to mess up my video. So what I was telling Jamie, I like about the fact they have 3 pastures, 3 separate pastures that are all, fenced in, that have a gate that go to all 3 of them, is if you ever had to separate any of your animals for whatever reason, if you had a female in heat you didn't want to have bred, if you had a little bull calf that you wanted to, trade off or whatever else, that all of those kind of things happen when you start raising animals. You have to figure out what's the best, for your breed. And so what we would do is, if we had any females, we would either have them, if we wanted to continue to have more. And with 18 acres, guys, you could actually have 18 head of cattle here. You do know that the rule of thumb with cows, if you have good grass, is it's an acre per cow. So you could actually have up to 18 cows here. Now, if you ever moved a horse over or whatever, that would change that whole thing. But for having 18 acres, that would give you the ability to have 18 head of cows, 18 head of cattle. And so what I would have to do is kind of play with the numbers a little bit. You make sure that your little heifers, your little females, would go off to their band camps or have that set up somehow. And I know a lot of folks are suggesting the AI, which is artificial insemination. Guys, that does happen. That does happen. You have to have someone who has a license to do that, and it can become very expensive. To be honest, it's a lot easier to just have, if you had a system to load your animals up and take them to I'll just call it band camp. That's a little bit easier, so quite a bit cheaper. And the co-op that we have, I have talked about this before, you get into well, cattle or horses, you know, over here in the country, and you form kind of a co-op. You form kind of a group of friends, a network of fellow cattlemen or cattle women, and you trade things off. Here's an example. If I was to have a little bull calf, not a Huey, a mixed breed bull, but if you had a purebred bull calf, this is more cattle land across the road. If you have a purebred Longhorn from like a bull with the pedigree of, you know, of Tex and Santana, then guess what? You could trade that bull calf for either another bull calf if you wanted the bull, or for a couple of females, a couple of little heifers. Okay, well, we are done. I will say that there were a lot of neat things about it.
There's a lot of positives.
The two things that I think everyone's going to say is the fact that we can't just go in and just unload them and be done. We have to go build some fencing before we can ever bring them over here.
Yeah. That
would block off the pasture from her backyard. And we also have to build some kind of a protection from the element. Yeah, from some type of a barn where they can come in and get out of the rain and whatnot. We have a good place to store hay and feed and whatnot, but we just can't, we got to have a way to keep them out of the weather as well. So for the most part, I like the 2 ponds. That was something that the other property did not have.
Agreed.
We do have its very own well that would be just for the animals.
Which is amazing.
Which is really neat. And
there's a lot of shade.
There's a lot of shade. There's great grass, lots of grass. The soil here is different than the other place's soil, so we're going to get a really good grass here.
It doesn't flood.
There's no flooding. No, we are nowhere near a floodplain.
We are like way, way, way far from
I have to say this. There's no development. There's no potential for development.
No.
All of these homes right here, these farms, are larger pieces of properties. And which that tells us there's not a potential for someone to come in and start clearing it all up to make subdivisions.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
I love it.
I can't wait to hear what you think. So we will go home and pray about it. And if God does not answer or give us a obvious sign, then we will resort to reading your comments and letting you guys be the voice of God for us. Can I go forward now? All right. Going forward.